Hello, and welcome to part 3 of PVM accessories and useful items and explanations about different things. Today, we're going to take a look at shields, their tear, their abilities, effects, and how they work all together. So, to start off, we need to look at our defensives. And in our defensive book, we have a few abilities that scales with shield tear. Now we're going to first look at Resonance, which is a basic ability, doesn't require any adrenaline, only requires a shield. Keep in mind, Bone Shield works as well for all abilities, but I will mainly focus on an actual shield for this explanation. If you read the tooltip, it heals for 50 to 100% damage on the next hit, which means if your shield here is low, your heal will also be lower. An example here would be my bone shield with the Nexus, which is 76. That would heal way less than if I equipped a tier 90 shield like this Merciless Kite Shield here. Does this matter in the big picture? No, not really. Not unless if you're doing endgame PVM and you really rely on the big heal. Now, there's a few other abilities that also scales with shield, and those are Debilitate. Debilitate is an ability that will deal a little bit of damage, but will reduce the damage you take from that target by 50%. And as you can see, the duration is based on shield tear, but it does not require a shield to be activated. So technically, you could have a no shield 7-second debilitate, but just having Bone Shield active will make your debilitate longer. And that's really great when you are struggling to survive and just want some damage reduction. Although equipping again a tier 90 shield like the Vengeful, the Malevolent, or the Merciless would make this last longer. But there is not a lot of times or places where equipping a shield for this is actually worth it. Now, there is a third ability that scales with shield tear, where the shield tear is actually important or matters, and that is Barricade. And Barricade is an ability that requires 100% adrenaline, also known as the ultimate ability, and it will block all damage for 5 to 10 seconds based on the shield tier. There is also two extra things that can extend the Barricade timer, which are this Turtling 4 perk, and we can have a look at that. And the Turtling 4 perk will extend by 10% per tier, so 40% with this tier 4 perk. And it will also be extended by a tier 2 or tier 1 from the dinosaur in the Ranch of Time. I forgot the name of the dinosaur, but you can look that up. Now, where is Barricade useful and when does it matter? Well, as far as I know, there's only two places that I use it, and that is a challenge wave at Suck, where you are supposed to take no hits at all, and at Warago for a few time-based phases where mechanics will normally deal a lot of damage, and there is no reason not to because they are time-based phases. I'm sure there are other times or places where this could be useful, although there is a few things that can cancel it or damage through it, like Telos insta-kill or any other insta-kill from other things. But yeah, it is useful to know that shields do affect defensives. There is also an ability that shares cooldown with Resonance, but can be used instead. This is Divert. And basically, what divert does is it doesn't heal the damage from the next hit, but it will still block it, and it will turn that damage into adrenaline. So you will gain more adrenaline if the hit was going to be bigger. So this is useful where you would have a big hit come in and you don't actually need a heal, because then you can just instantly do more damage with the adrenaline you have. You have to buy Divert in the Grand Exchange or get it as a drop from Raksha, but it has its uses. You just have to figure it out. Now, there are a few other defensives that are useful and some are not. Let's look at what's not useful at all. Rejuvenate. The only reason it's not useful whatsoever is because it shares cooldown with Enhanced Excalibur, and that is making it useless because Enhanced Excalibur is free to use. It requires no shield, no adrenaline, no nothing. And Rejuvenate requires 100 adrenaline, and it's just basically useless. But yeah, you can also use other abilities like Immortality. It reduces 25% damage for 30 seconds, but if you would die in those 30 seconds, you would be revived with some extra HP, and yeah, you get a second chance. It's like a sign of life, but it's a defensive with a shield. You could also use Reflect, which is similar to Debilitate, but it does not scale to shield here, and it also works on all damage you take, not only from your main target. And it also sends back some damage with Reflect, which is in the name. So it's really useful if you are getting hit really hard by a lot of things and you want to deal some damage back and take less damage yourself. You can also combine this with Debilitate, or, well, use one of them first and the other one second and cycle back and forth. But it does also require 50% adrenaline and will use 15% like every threshold will. Um, yeah, there's Freedom. You can use it while stunned and you will no longer be stunned. You can also use it to prevent being stunned, and you can use it to clear bleeds. Simple, useful, strong, is a basic ability, does not require adrenaline. Anticipation, you cannot use it to clear stuns or bleeds, but you can use it to not be stunned if you're using it before the stun hits you. It also gives you 10% damage reduction, and it's also a basic ability. Devotion, really, really strong. It's a threshold ability, so you require 50% adrenaline, and if you are praying the correct combat style, like your overhead prayer, like pray melee, like I'm doing now, you use devotion, all melee damage you take while devotion is up with a prayer active will be reduced to 0 or 1, but yeah, reduced to 0. Killing an enemy while this ability is active will extend it by a little bit, so it is helpful. That's about it for defensives, because the only place you would use Natural Instinct is on Virago on a dummy, or Araxor a dummy, or other places where you would do try hard endgame rotations like AOD, Angel of Death, and stuff like that. So it's not really used a lot. It is useful, just not used a lot. Now, there's one last thing that we could talk about with shields, and that is the spirit shields. And that is when you have a spirit shield equipped, they reduce your damage taken by 30%, and they drain your prayer points by 20% of the amount of damage blocked. Let's say you would take a 5k, a 6k damage, you would take 30% less than that, but 20% of the amount of damage blocked would be taken from your prayer points, which means your prayer points would be heavily drained so fast, and you would need something to keep that up to make this even viable. It will also make it so you cannot use your offhand, which is very bad for most situations, and you would not really camp this. This is more like a equip it to block a big hit that would kill you, and then deal with whatever comes after. Um, all the Spirit Shield does the same thing. They're just a different combat style. Kane's magic, Elysian is range, Divine's melee, and Spectral has now become a Necromancy shield. They're all tier 70, and that's about it for those shields. We can bank those shields real quick. Oh yeah, before I forget, never use Defenders. They count as a shield and a offhand, but they are only 50% of the real tier. So tier 90 Defender is basically a tier 45 shield and a tier 45 offhand weapon, which makes them really bad and not that strong. Don't bother getting Defenders at all. Now, I see this video is getting a little long, so I'll just end up explaining a few more things, and that will be the Portent of Item Protection and the Fury Shark. They both have one thing in common. So the Portent of Item Protection will extend your items kept on death to 4, and the same will Eating a Fury Shark. It will extend items protected by 1 to 4. You can stack them together, you get 5. You turn on your prayer to protect an extra item, you do not get 6. As you see in the explanation for the Fury Shark, it says max 5 items. But without prayer, you can just have a look at my item kept on death. It's now 5, and that saves me a lot of money. It saves me a lot of money on death if I'm not using Ring of Death, which I'm not right now. I'm using a Reaver's Ring. So that is just some thought for you to think about. And I will be back in my next video to explain some more things. Thank you for watching.